All right, I'm going to do a real brief intro here. This is a second in an ongoing series of podcasts having to do with my friend's sailing adventure, which the prior podcast had to do with the start of that journey from La Rochelle, France to A Coruna, Spain. They have since left A Coruna, sailed down the coast of Portugal. Let me get myself out of the way here. Sailed down the coast of Spain and Portugal to Lisbon. They are currently at the Marina in Lisbon. I was on the phone with John a little bit earlier, check things out, see where they are. I'm going to get him back on the phone here in just a couple of minutes. When I come back, we'll continue and we'll have John and we'll get a little bit of the story about that journey from A Coruna down to Lisbon and how things are going there, and a little bit about on how they're going to move forward from Lisbon and on towards Gibraltar and into the Mediterranean. So keep that brief. That's all I have. When I come back, as I say, I'll have John on the phone. All right, so here I am back. I've got John on the phone. We've been chatting just a little bit about how things have gone. Last podcast, we left my friends in A Coruna, Spain. They were on the way to Lisbon, and they have made that journey from A Coruna to Lisbon. John, how'd that go, man?
Well, quite interesting. So the first thing you do as a sailor, one that's responsible, is you check the weather. And what I mean by the weather, what I'm doing is downloading grid files. So I'm trying to check to see what the weather's going to be doing in about 3 days out, and that's about as accurate as you can get. So we're downloading the weather, looking at what the weather's going to be doing, making sure that that we don't have any low pressure that's system that's going to be bearing down on us and drown us. And the weather wasn't great. It looked like we were going to get a southerly wind, which means we're going to sail from A Coruna down to Lisbon. So we're sailing south. We don't want winds, in our face. Ideally, we'd have winds coming from the north, pushing us down. That would be a nice sail. That's a gentleman sail, so it'd be good. Well, we looked at the weather, and it's like, well, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be great. The winds aren't going to be blowing too hard. I think we had looked like it was going to be 15 knots average, and I have about 5 different profiles that I download as far as the grid files go.
Out of which
So
direction is that 15-knot wind coming? Is that
well,
favorable to
it
you
was
or not
coming.
favorable?
So it was coming out of the south,
Oh,
um, but it was supposed to be backing off and coming then from the west, and then hopefully all the way back to the north, and that's what they planned. So it was going to be about 2.5 days, and about the last 12 hours, it was going to be or last 24 hours, a beam reach, which means it was going to be coming right on our side, and then falling back to almost a dead run, which means it's going to be just behind us, which would be nice because also as the wind pushes, and this is out in the Atlantic,
uh-huh.
um, we'd have what's called a following sea, so that would be kind of gentle for us. Now, the worst case scenario would be the wind's in our face, right on our nose, and so then you're going to have seas beating you up, and then you're going to have to be tacking back and forth, and it would just be a horrible ride. So
Well,
what happened was,
I've got your route map up here so people can see your route. It looks like you made a pretty straight run once you came out from A Coruna,
yeah,
made that little
yeah,
turn there. It looks pretty straight all the way down the coast.
yeah. So what happened was we were running pretty straight, and the seas were real calm actually, and the winds were gentle. It was no big deal, and we knew it wasn't going to be all that much wind. And then there's a point where you should see us kind of falling off to port to the left, right?
Yes, you come
Um,
in. There's something La Iria, something like that. Columbra
yeah.
and
So
Leiria,
what
something like
happened
that.
was we had deployed what's called a whisker pole. So we had that deployed out, and this is a long pole. Let's say it's like 18 feet long, big aluminum pole. It's tied to the mast, and it goes out at a 90-degree angle to the boat, essentially. And what that does is it holds out one of our sails so that it doesn't get backfilled. It's yeah. So the Genoa we had pulled out, and then we had the main on the opposite side. It's called a wing-on-wing sail, and
Okay.
it's meant to be used for downwind sailing. You want as much canvas as you can get out there. But the wind started shifting on us, and it's like, okay, we need to, pull this in because this is for ocean passages. It takes a while to deploy it. You have to have a fore preventer, an aft preventer, a topping lift, and a bottom. So, a lot of lines out there to hold this damn pole out there. Well, the winds start picking up, and it's like, well, the winds aren't supposed to be blowing that damn hard. And then the seas start picking up. It's like, well, my 5 different grib files that I downloaded didn't denote this. So we have to get suited up and have our we have tethers on both sides of the boat and jack lines and to make sure that we're always tethered to the boat. And we had to go out there in really heavy seas.
So it started to get pretty
And
rough at that point, apparently.
yeah, the wind started picking up, and we're gonna have to start running with this. We're gonna have to start tacking, and the wind is still it's coming around on our nose. So we need to pull that thing up if we're gonna have because we're a sailboat and we have sails out, and we need to handle this. So we had to go out there in pretty heavy seas and secure that back onto the mast, and that's what we did. It's like, okay, that's great. And we earlier we had the Jenniker, which is another sail. It's a light wind sail up to about 20 knots, and it's enormous.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
saw a picture of that you had posted earlier. It looks like a big balloon,
yeah,
kind
and
of.
essentially it is. But if the wind picks up and it catches you out, Jennikers and Spinnakers, it catches too much air, it can just drop your boat into the water, and that's not cool. So anyway, we got that Spinnaker pull up, and then the winds just kept increasing and increasing, and they were maintaining the same direction, which means the seas were also starting to develop.
Uh-huh.
And so our boat is 50 feet long, and we have um, there's 4 of us on board, and I'm not going to name any names here because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But the seas started really picking up, and we got to the point where the boat would rise up, and then it would drop, and all the way into a trough of a wave, and because I'm trying to calculate how tall these waves are, and so 50 feet, and we're dropping in, and it's like, okay, I don't, I'm looking 360 degrees, I don't see anything but water right above me. So the swells were and waves were, I'd say, 25 to 30 feet tall, and we were having blue water falling, crashing over the bow of the boat. Now we have an ML 50, so we have a protected cockpit,
Right.
and so we have a wraparound windshield. But we had blue water coming across, and we've got these port lights down below, which you can look out into the seas. And we were on a starboard tack. If you were looking at the left port lights, they were underwater.
Oh my gosh.
So you're just looking at the sea, and so all of a sudden the wind started picking up to so we're getting consistent 30 to 35 knot winds, and I'm looking at my grib files, and I'm seeing, well, I got 5 different 5 different files that are telling me 18 knots is what I should be seeing.
My
So here we
goodness.
are, 35 knots, and we're, and 3-foot swells. All of a sudden we got, we're bearing our 50-foot boat, in these swells in the in the Atlantic. It's like, oh wow, that's great. Also, the wind had backed on us, and so I had to change course to maintain because we had some sails up. I guess we could have dropped all the sails and just motored, and we were headed towards it's called Nava something in Portugal. So
Okay.
the wind's on our starboard, and we're heading towards the Portuguese coast. And Jorge was looking at so we have a chart plotter, and it shows the depth of the ocean, which, where we were, it's like 5,000 feet.
Okay.
Um, but there's this canyon that comes right up to this one point in Portugal. And then Jorge says to me, he's like, "Hey, Johnny, it looks like we're headed right for this point, I can't remember the name, but um, and then he looks at me, he's like, "Isn't that where the biggest waves in the world are?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's where those surfers, when the conditions are just right,
Oh
when
my
the wind
gosh.
is blowing just right, because you have so much fetch, right, for the waves to build up. You have
Uh-huh.
these surfing on 100-foot waves, and then this is my older brother. He says to me, it's like, I'm not really comfortable with sailing over there." It's like,
Yeah,
all right.
maybe not, huh? Wow.
So, so if you look at the charts, well, anyway, we kind of tacked um, and made some course corrections and left that area.
Yeah, I see you went back
But
westward. You were headed eastward, and then you went back westward and got back on your straight course again. That's what it looks like.
that's right. But the seas were, I've sailed the Pacific coast quite a bit. I've also sailed in the Bahamas and the um, uh, Caribbean,
Uh-huh.
but I have never seen seas this big. So, we're out there with our fallies on and getting all wet, and I've learned something about this. So, we bring our fallies inside, and our floor was starting to get a little wet, down below, and in my cabin it was kind of wet,
Really, water was
and
getting it was so much sea that there was water actually getting down in the enclosed part of the boat?
the only reason it was getting in the enclosed part of the boat was because we'd come back into the boat soaking wet,
Oh,
right?
okay,
Because we'd be
okay,
outside
okay.
and we got some water, and it's salty water, and it's like not a good idea. And I'll tell you why it's a really bad idea was because it's like, okay, because we're going to be sailing for 2.5 days, 3 days to get to Portugal from A Coruna. And you don't just like, okay, hey, let's stop and clean the boat off and dry everything off. No, you don't get to do that. In those 2 days, you have to do well, the things you would do in normal life. For
Right.
example, if you had to um, relieve yourself, go to the bathroom. Of course, you would never go out in conditions like that because you might get washed overboard. So we have proper toilets on board.
Yeah.
Um, so, I just things like, um, a grown man going to the bathroom normally will stand up and just, that's it, relieve himself. But in a situation when you have seas like that and the boat is not only heeled over at 30 to plus degrees, but also going up and down, and then sometimes pitching back and forth, especially when you have
So you're saying
confused
the
seas.
stream doesn't go quite as well like that. It might be a
That's
challenge for
the
your
least
aim.
of your
You're
problems.
talking
That's
about
the least of
challenge.
your problems because you can clean that mess up. What I'm talking about is I'm just going to tell you, you got your feet on the ground, right? That's too. Forget about the feet. Your feet are just holding you up. With your feet on the ground, you need a minimum of 3 points of contact to position yourself and hold yourself steady so
Uh-huh.
that you can relieve yourself. So you do the math. How do you do that?
Yeah,
You know,
right. Good question.
right? And you still, right? It's not easy.
So it seems like
Um,
sitting down might be a better approach, huh?
Well, there you go. You're an engineer. You figured that one out quick. Yeah.
So anyway, you got us down the coast. You were a couple of 100 miles off land, pretty much, for that
Yeah. Yeah.
the bulk of that journey.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then you started
Absolutely.
tucking back in again, it looks like, once you get down near Lisbon.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
how did that go? You were telling me a little story there about hailing the Marina. How did that go
right.
with
Right. So
Spanish versus English versus Portuguese? That work out real well,
right.
John?
So yeah. Yeah. So being the skipper of the boat, I had roved on a couple of different watches because it was some really, really heavy weather.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, the other guys haven't been sailing as much as I had. So they had a little apprehension, especially with the boat lifting up and pointing to the sky and then diving into a trough. And, you know, they just weren't as comfortable. So I would just take the helm for situations like that. So I ended up being on the helm more than I normally am, because usually the crew is handling most of that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I finally go down to my cabin to sleep, and there's a little portal that anyone who's on watch, they just right behind them, there's a portal that goes to my room. They can just bang on it to wake me up. And so I've got this scar, I've got a big scab on my elbow and a big bruise on my knee because I had taken my foul weather gear into my cabin earlier that night. The floor was wet, and I heard something banging around as the boat is banging around. So, I go to my head to see what was banging around. Of course, I don't want to turn on the lights, because if I ever have to get hailed up to go onto
Yeah.
up above, you don't want to lose your night vision.
vision.
So you
Yeah.
never turn your lights on. So, it's kind of dark, and I'm trying to see what the hell's banging around. And my feet, I'm barefooted, are, on the sole, and it's wet. And we go obviously there's a big wave that came, and we were heeling over hard, and I support myself, and of course my feet slipped up from under me. I get slammed onto the ground, and we're heeled so far that I slid like on a slippery slide right into the wall, into
Oh
my
my
knee. It's
gosh.
like, yeah, it was awesome.
Uh,
And I wasn't the only one. Here we are, and we're now in some really nice marina with all these restaurants that are overlooking the marina. We've been having great food, and the boat looks wonderful, but we're all sore because it's like we were put in a blender and beat up for a long time.
But tell me
But
about the
anyway,
language barrier that you're running into. Talk.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
so we're pulling in, we're getting close now, and we got a 964-foot tanker that was coming up our butthole. I'm sorry, I should say that. And so Jorge bangs on the window, but we've been beating so hard into the wind and getting beat up. It's like I was trying to sleep, and then finally, you bam, bam, then you hear this boom, 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 bam, bam, boom, 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 and it's like, is someone trying to? And I open the window and I look into the cockpit. And it's like, Jorge, are you calm? He's like, Johnny, get up here. So I went up there, and sure enough, I look at the radar, and I look at the MMSI and info on this boat. It's like, wow, 964. And I look back, because it's pitch black, but you look back and you can see, because they're required to fly everyone's required to have certain lights. And it's like, wow, okay, that's a big freaking ship. And we're in the shipping lane, and we're in the channel because we're going the same direction he is. But
Uh-huh.
and here's the funny thing: we still had the mainsail up, so we technically have the right of way. But common sense is, here we are, we displaced 30,000 pounds, and
You
he
got a
displaces,
964-foot tanker bearing down on you.
and he's 100 foot wide. Yeah. So he's like, so what should we do? It's like, I'll take the helm. We're gonna get the fucking hell out of the way. It's like we're gonna be out of the channel. It's like,
Oh
that's
my
all
God.
right. We draw 7 feet, or 7.1 feet, and he draws about a mile. So anyway, we got out of the way, and there, and he's steaming at like 17 knots, right? And as he goes by, it looks like, hey, look, a city block is going by us. It's like, oh wow,
Jeez.
it's just it's crazy. So anyway, as we start pulling in, we got in earlier because we had some heavy wind. We were doing at times 10 knots.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the calculations I ran on Predict Wind, which is software which has these algorithms that uses my boat polars to calculate, given the wind, the waves, the current, and the efficiencies of the sails that I have and the boat, it calculates about when we should arrive, and we beat those polars because the wind was much higher than they anticipated.
Uh-huh.
So we're hours ahead of schedule,
So
and
this
we're
is
pulling in
early Monday morning that you're pulling
early.
in. Very early
I
Monday
don't even know
morning.
what day it's early the morning that I so yeah,
Well,
it's
it's still
early
Monday
this
there
morning.
too.
Yeah, right. So we're pulling in. Everyone is exhausted,
By the
and
way, just a
uh,
reminder, John, this is Valentine's Day. Have you called Mel?
oh, thanks. Can we pause this real quick?
I might be able to
I'm
get her
still
on.
licking
I
my
might be able to
wounds.
get her on the phone here, but that's probably more of a private affair between you and her. So I won't.
Yeah, no, don't do that,
I
Marina.
won't. I won't
Come
do.
on,
I
Joe.
won't try to do that.
We go way back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're coming into Portugal, and I had called them way in advance, because I just didn't know how it was going to be. So, country I've never been to, a language I do not know how to speak.
Hmm.
In a marina, I don't know exactly where it is. I can Google it all I want, but
Sure.
it's totally different when you're out in the sea coming into a harbor in the pitch dark. It's not a road, right? Um, so
Yeah.
we're
No
coming
kidding.
in,
Because
and
I'm
and
looking at. I've got this map up of the shows the
yeah, try
marina.
doing
It's
it
a
in pitch dark.
big bay. It looks like a huge bay that comes in and then it necks down into, I wouldn't call it a river, but it looks like a wide embayment that goes
Rio
back.
Tejo. Yeah,
And
they call it a river, but yeah, of course it's not.
is it a river? Does it come in as a river from somewhere and then widens
Not
out?
where we are, but if you keep going,
It
and
turns
oh,
into
by
a
the
river.
way, it's absolutely beautiful. As I went up after we got docked, I went up there's a walkway along the Rio Tejo, and I came across a suspension bridge that looks identical to the Golden Gate Bridge in California.
Is that
It's beautiful.
does that go across from Lisbon to? It looks like Almada on the other side of that
That's right. Yeah,
bay.
yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah, I've got
So
a
anyway,
picture of
we're
that. Let
pull.
me bring it. Let me put the picture. You won't see it, but let
You
me
should.
pull that up.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's even painted the same orange red as the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
So anyway,
I've got a picture of Lisbon, and it shows a bridge that looks just like the Golden Gate Bridge, by the way. So this must be that
yeah,
bridge you're talking about.
yeah, right. It does. So
And it
anyway, we're
looks like some kind of a tall structure on the far shore that has a cross on top of it. What is that?
well, yeah.
Can you see that? I mean, where
Yes, it's
you are,
either
can you see that? Or did you see that?
well, it's dark right now,
Well,
but
yeah, of
yeah,
course.
I don't know. It's probably the Virgin Mary or something. They're got a lot of Catholic stuff over here.
Yeah, of course. So
Yeah.
anyway, keep going now. You were about to get into the language barrier, and we've stayed away from that several times. So how did that
So
go down?
we're coming to this marina that but we're I thought I've already called them. Everything's good, right? So I get on the phone because we have phone service now.
Uh-huh.
Because I have a PepWave and a SIM card and all that Yahoo, and I get no answer. So I'm looking. I have these charts that I have and pilot books, and it's like, okay, I have their phone number. Call them, nothing. I know what channel they're on. They're monitoring 09. It says right here 24/7. I call them up. This is Malacon vessel and nothing. I called them like 9 times. And then I called them on channel 16, which I loathe to do because channel 16 is for emergencies only, but you can use it for these kind of situations. It's crickets. I get nothing. So we're
Okay.
pulling our boat into a foreign country, foreign waters, never been here, and I get nothing. And so it's like, ah, son of a bitch. I don't even know if there's anything available there. So I quickly look at some other um, marinas
Uh-huh.
that are a little further down, closer to that bridge, by the way. And it's like, okay, I called and nothing, no one's answering, same thing. And then I get one, the guy answers, and I say, vale você inglés? No. Vale você español? No. It's like, oh, geez, you're kidding me. And then I have Jorge there with me because he also speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe he can help me decipher because it can't be that far off of Spanish, right? Portuguese.
You'd think not.
Portuguese. Yeah, it's just like a sloppy Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I have it on speakerphone, and he's just like blah 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 blah. It's like, oh fuck. It's like, you have a visitor dock available for us. Blah 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 blah. It's like, oh fuck. I ended up hanging up, and so we just, okay, we're gonna have to pull into that first marina that we picked out, and we're looking at the chart plotter, and I'm zooming in, and I'm also using my radar,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna pull in this place without knowing where. Anyway, we pulled in, and the only dock we found available was the fuel dock, and we parked in the fuel dock, and we just hung out there for a while. Dave said, "Hey, anyone want scrambled eggs and sausages?" Yeah, okay. So we're at the fuel dock, and we just had a great breakfast, and I ended up calling them, and at like 8:30, and they answered. And vale você inglés? Yes, I can speak English. And oh man, that was such a relief. So
So
we were able
I
to.
got a picture that somebody posted here. I don't know if this is that. Yeah, it must be. I see. Yeah, it must be the fuel dock because I see fuel pumps, and then there's a breakwater beyond that. Your boat is kind of parked in the background, and then there's a couple more
Yes,
boats in
yeah,
the foreground that somebody must have been
yeah,
standing over on the marina or somewhere and took that picture looking out
yep, yep.
towards
That
that
sounds like
mole
right.
or
Yep,
breakwater, whatever that thing's called.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah. It
looks pretty serene,
what?
John. Looks very cool, man.
Oh yeah,
So
it
you
is. I'll
walked
tell
in.
you
It
what. But
looks like there's a boardwalk that goes in. I can't see what's behind that. So I guess that's where that restaurant Marina is that you're talking about. That you had breakfast.
that's right. So our boat is pointed towards the restaurants, and there are just a number of
Ah,
restaurants there, like on this. That like I'm standing on my boat right now, and I'm looking at all these restaurants. They're like 10 feet above us, and they're all looking at us.
have you moved to a more permanent mooring from where this picture was taken out at the
Yeah,
fuel dock?
yeah, and it's only like 100 yards away,
I see. You're over
and
there
we're
more in line
we're
with those other boats then that are lined up
that's right,
across from the
and we're
fuel dock.
we're backed up. We're backed up to the restaurant, so we're
Ah,
kind of like
okay.
sitting in our boat in the cockpit. We're looking at the people who are dining.
So
So it's kind of a nice.
how was the food in the restaurant? You told me you ate there this evening, I guess.
Yeah, so there's this pastry. I can't pronounce it, but it's a Pastel Grabler. But
Okay,
it's
I'm sure you're
absolutely
murdering.
fantastic.
I'd say you're probably
I
murdering
am.
that.
Yeah, and so, unfortunately, that many people are still having to wear their masks. So I'm, I think I'm pretty good at picking up languages, but I can't quite articulate, and I can't hear exactly what they're saying. But it's this pastry that's about the size of a Bama pie,
Uh-huh.
but the crust is not as thick. It's very flaky, like like grandma's apple pie would be. And the interior is kind of not creme brulee or like a flan, but stickier and
Oh.
denser.
It's like a
It's
custard, a thick custard they like. So,
yeah, but kind of yeah, denser.
huh.
Um, really, really good. And that's one of the it's a Portuguese um, famous pastry. It's just
Oh,
fantastic.
okay.
Yeah, we just so I'd been eating some of these foods, and the guys are like, "Hey, let's eat here at dinner." And I was like, "I'm not gonna. I'm full. I've been eating all their pastries, and so I was fine.
Uh-huh.
And then they called me up and said, "Come on, we're just having, tapas." And so I went up there, and of course, David, Wes, and Jorge, guess what they ordered for dinner?
I have no idea what.
Fucking cheeseburgers.
You got to be shitting me.
I'm not kidding you.
You went to the other
So
side of the world to eat a freaking cheeseburger? Come on, man.
I know. So here's what I ordered on the tapas bar because I couldn't believe it. So I had a sandwich. It was a sandwich, right? It's like a fried sandwich with a cheese. It's a goat cheese with chicken. Are you ready? And
Yeah.
bananas.
Now, I don't know about the banana part. The rest of it sounds good.
Yeah,
Not
a
sure I could
fried
deal with the
goat
banana
cheese.
part.
I only ordered it because it's like, you got to be kidding me.
How
You're not
was it?
really going to put bananas in with
How,
chicken and goat cheese.
how did bananas and goat cheese go together?
Well, you know, it's funny. Sometimes when you put a bunch of things together, it's like, wow, those really go together well.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it
No.
tastes like you're eating chicken, cheese, and bananas. So
Oh,
I'm going to have to
goodness.
say swing and a miss on that one.
Oh my God. So what's your plan at this point? Obviously, it's night over there. You guys are gonna
Yeah.
kick back.
So
Probably you're gonna explore some more tomorrow, or what are you thinking?
yeah, tomorrow we're going to go into the city of Lisbon in the morning. Um, Check it out. And depending on how it goes, we'll probably leave day after tomorrow to
Okay.
Gibraltar. And the
Okay.
only reason we're going there, that was your call. You wanted to go to Gibraltar, and I started reading up on it.
Well, at least there's somebody will
Uh,
speak your language when you get there.
right, exactly. But no, I want to see the monkeys of Gibraltar. I want to see what the hell's going on with all that.
Okay, that'll be cool. Yeah, I've got this
Yeah,
picture back up of Lisbon, the city itself, with that view of the bridge. Looks like a very large, very tightly packed Mediterranean city.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
Hispanic or Spanish looking architecture.
yeah.
Bright
Yep.
colors, very pretty, beautiful actually.
Lots of, it's very interesting. I took my folding bike and I went for a long ride, and we'll have sidewalks. They have sidewalks, but their sidewalks are like individually laid pieces of granite that are perfectly flat and square. I mean, small, like
Did
two
the
by two and three by three.
did the Romans
That
put those down, or did those? Do you think that came later?
Joe, I don't know, but it's like, and I'm, Wes also had one of my other folding bikes we're riding, and there'll be walls that are just going on and on and on with this like flint rock that's laid in the 10 feet tall and for miles. I'm like, wow. As someone who's done some building, I'm thinking, wow. I
That's
mean,
a
how
lot of
much does
work.
that cost? Yeah, no, a lot of
Very
labor, a
expensive
lot
and a
of
lot
rock.
of work. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And just mile after mile of, it's not like just macadam of pavement. It's just a lot of very detailed work on just sidewalks and roads, and yeah, so it's been very, very interesting.
I got somebody calling in here. This is kind of inconvenient to have that. I hope they stop here very quickly. It's Rick Hill.
I mean, Rick, I know him.
Yeah. So anyway, with that little interruption, so on to Gibraltar. How long will that? Looks like that's not that far. Nothing like the A Coruna to Lisbon distance. Is
Yeah,
that
so
is that true?
that's definitely not going to be as far. I was talking to my wife earlier. She said, well, asked me the question, how far. I haven't run the charts, just because we pulled in, and I mean the boat. I washed the boat because it's like we were submerged in
Uh-huh.
seawater. I mean, we were underwater for a while. It was
Yeah, it
it was
sounds
it
like
was
it.
something. So right, and we're just checking out sites here. So I haven't run any the predict wind algorithms to see how long it's going to take us to get there, but it shouldn't be too far. But
Yes,
after what we went through, I mean,
it'll be a piece
you
of
know,
cake.
right, throw it at us. Let's see what you got.
So once you get to Gibraltar, you're going to head on in through the Pillars of Hercules into the Med. Is that your plan right now?
That's right. So
Okay.
we'll from there we're going to make a call. I think we're going to go to Mallorca,
Uh-huh.
Menorca, and probably Ibiza, as they say.
Okay.
Um, and then to Barcelona, and
Okay.
that's where we're going to drop Wes off. Wes leaves from Barcelona
So he's
back to the
flying back
state.
from there.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And then from there we'll head to Toulon, Toulon, in south of France, and that's probably where we're going to leave this for um, about a month. Where I'll head back, pick up my wife, then
Gotcha.
Melanie and I will fly back and do some sailing.
Sure. So, yeah, let's probably bring this to an end here fairly quickly. We want to bore everybody to death. I don't want to take up all your time.
Okay.
I'll pick you back up in Gibraltar, and you can talk about that a little bit and tell everybody about the
Right.
apes or monkeys or whatever the things are.
Right, and I also want to tell you about Dave and his phone after that too, and
Oh, 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 you want
the
to talk about
juxtaposition.
David's phone, or you want to wait till then to talk about it? Or is it too
Yeah,
much
we
of
can do that then.
is it
I just want to do. I just because we're also seeing very different cultures here, Joe, and different ways of. Well, I just want to show the difference between how France handles certain things and how Portugal handles certain things. Because I lost my phone in France, and
Oh yeah, I
Dave
saw
lost
that.
his.
I saw that they brought the gendarmes out and full rescue. Now in the U.S., you'd be standing there with your thumb in your butt, with your phone on the bottom of the water, and there wouldn't be one person that you could call that would help you other than some friend who might be a diver. I mean, what, right? So now in
Oh
France, you
yeah,
got a whole organization that's built around retrieving phones that some idiot dropped in the water.
and I'm the idiot. Yeah, you're right. Joe, I never in my life felt like that. I'm just standing there thinking, I'm such a stupid freaking American. I feel so stupid. I wanted to pay these people. I didn't even offer to pay them. They just looked at me. It's like, no. It's
Nope,
like you wanted to pay a cop,
that's
you
her
know?
job. Retrieving phones
You're right.
from dumb shit Americans. They're probably still talking about you, John. There's no telling what they said behind your back.
Oh yeah. They're just saying, look at the did you see the look on that stupid Cuban American's face? It's like, yeah, right.
That was probably the reward. It gave them something to talk about for the rest of the day.
Yeah, well, they show up two guys fully outfitted in their gear to go diving for a phone or diving for a dead body. And then the third person is a woman and she looks like she's 25 years old, very fit, with a gun strapped to her thigh. She was the backup, all for my phone. This really happened. It's like crazy.
Wow.
And it was a very different scenario for
So,
David
so
here
now
in
this
Portugal.
repeated. We can do that one when you get to Gibraltar after you've thought about that a little
Oh,
bit.
okay. We'll do.
Maybe you'll have a repeat. Maybe somebody will drop one on the phone at Gibraltar, and let's see how the Gibraltarians or whatever they're called deal with it.
Oh yeah, we've only lost 50% of the phones on board,
Is
so
David's
we're
phone? Well, now your phone was okay because it's an iPhone 14, so it'll survive
yeah,
25. It's okay. You're talking on that phone right now, right?
yeah, right. Yeah.
What about David's phone? What's the story on it? Is it?
Oh, it's dead. Yeah.
It was not an iPhone.
No, no, he got the uh it's a Google
Oh
Pixel
shit!
or
Those barely
yeah,
work in the air, much less underwater, probably.
totally dead. And he's like, "Oh, I want to get another one." It's like, "Well, look at me talking on my phone. I'm fancy."
All right, John. Let's leave it at that. I'm gonna stay on
All right.
here, man. I'm gonna fade out and stop the recording.